Data protection is a top priority with today's work-from-home workforce. However, current data loss prevention tools inadequately protect data in cloud or SaaS offerings from insider threats. Secure Circle automatically protects data as it leaves SaaS services such as GitHub, AWS, and Salesforce. The protection is transparent to users and works with any application to persistently protect data, even source code. Secure your data with Secure Circle's Zero Trust Data Protection. Begin your 30-day free trial by visiting securityweekly.com/Secure Circle. Cybercriminals are opportunistically targeting industries that continue to operate full tilt during the coronavirus shutdowns, and their attacks have grown more sophisticated. Given this shifting landscape, taking the appropriate countermeasures becomes paramount. Mimecast Email Security 3.0 helps you evolve from a perimeter-based security strategy to one that is comprehensive and pervasive with cyber resiliency in mind. From the company that stops at nothing to block cyber threats, Mimecast is offering a fully featured 90-day web security service. Visit securityweekly.com/Mimecast to learn more. You want to get the right things done for your security program. Sounds simple, but what are the right things for you? What does done mean? And how are you going to get there? Rapid7 realizes more than anyone how hard this can be. While Rapid7's Insight platform offers you industry-leading vulnerability management and detection and response solutions, their focus is on understanding where you are so that they can help you get where you're going. Visit securityweekly.com/Rapid7 to get started. If you want to stay in the loop on all things Security Weekly, please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe. You can subscribe to our shows via your favorite podcast catcher. All the shows on our network. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, our mailing list, and even join our Discord server at securityweekly.com/subscribe. Welcome back, everyone, to Enterprise Security Weekly. Very excited for our guest on this segment. Fredrik Nordberg Almroth joins us to discuss DNS hijacking and domain takeovers. Fredrik, I followed Detectify. I feel like a creepy stalker now. I followed Detectify for a long time and always appreciated the ninja security researchers that were behind that company. So I'm very excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Fredrik, I read the story as you were kind of like bored over holiday break, because things tend to quiet down over holiday break, and needed some good security research to do, and kind of stumbled into this domain DNS hijacking that led to being able to control much of a top level domain. So I'll turn it over to you to tell the story.
Right. So. Yeah, it was during Christmas times. I had nothing better to do, spending time with family and things, and I just opened my laptop. And I've historically, during the past 5 or so years, I've been spotting various DNS misconfigurations. So I thought, subdomains can be compromised in various ways, like if you have a CNAME pointer to Morocco or something, and there is no page there to host an application. Then sometimes you have a window of opportunity as an attacker to sign up on one of these SaaS providers and spin up your own application in the name of someone else. So I was thinking, why don't I look at a top level domain or one level above than just one organization? So I pulled down all TLDs globally, and I decided to look explicitly at the name server delegations, because all the new top level domains, we have many hundreds of them now. So I was thinking maybe something somewhere is broken in some aspect. So one thing led to another. I made a script, and it turned out that .cd Congo, their TLD they had a couple of name server delegations, but one of them went to a domain called scptnetwork.com. And it was a bit troublesome. Half of the name servers didn't reply to any incoming DNS questions. So I just got serve fail as a status code back. And that led me to investigate, because, it's a top level domain that shouldn't happen. Turned out that the domain was about to expire. So one thing led to another. I made a script that monitored the EPP status of the domain. Mm-hmm. And to my surprise, just before New Year, the status changed to pending deletion. And all of a sudden, it was up for grabs for anyone on the internet. So I simply bought the domain. Started looking at the incoming DNS questions.
That's kind of scary that, the top level domains have DNS servers that they point to for delegation to resolve names, and that you would let one of those DNS servers expire. And like you said, anyone could have registered that. And now, you don't necessarily control the top level domain, but you control DNS resolution for that top level domain if you control the DNS server, correct?
That is correct. As every .cd question, or in this case, 50% of them would hit my domain. That would mean that any incoming .cd lookup would also hit me. So I could see all the google.cd questions coming in. Mm-hmm. And DNSSEC was not enforced. So I could just as well have replied to those questions and pointed google.cd somewhere else. That's a scary reality.
I have to ask a real quick question. How much does it cost to buy that domain?
That domain, I bought it for $12.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, best $12 you ever spent.
Right?
Yeah. You could say that.
So
it's a scary arbitrage.
So and then the follow-on question to that is, once you grab it, do they come after you? Do they start complaining? Like, what was the fallout?
It's a good story. Like I've done quite a bit of bug bounty during the past couple of years, but doing it at this scale, it kind of undermines the part of the internet infrastructure. So I had quite a hard time figuring out, like, what do I do? Like, who do I contact? And more importantly, like how do I mitigate it? So one thing led to another, and I eventually reached out to the two contact persons at IANA's webpage, sent them an email like, hey, I bought this domain. Your names or your TLD is pointing towards it. It delegates to me. Like, can I transfer it to you? Or like, do you want to fix it yourself? Change the delegations of the TLD? Mm. And then I never heard anything back. Day after, I noticed some dig tracing that, they had updated the TLD, so it no longer went to me.
So they just took it back.
Sorry?
Yeah. I said, so they just straight up took it back. Thank you for letting us know it's ours now.
Yeah, pretty much. Remove the endless delegations from the domain.
If you hadn't said anything, would they have even noticed?
I doubt it. There was, you have the redundancy, right? That's why you want multiple endless pointers. And as long as it didn't reply with anything bogus, the DNS clients, the resolvers all around the internet, they would fall back to the legitimate servers that actually reply to the questions.
Now, Fredrik, had you not been a responsible security researcher, had you been a very evil person, an evil bad guy, what could you have done just for our audience to understand the repercussions of losing control of one of your DNS servers, especially for a top-level domain?
Yeah, essentially man in the middle. Any incoming question I can reply to. That means that if you are sitting at home and you want to go to google.cd, that traffic has to propagate throughout the internet through various resolvers. And half of that traffic will hit me. So if I just reply to that, everything will work out. I can say that google.cd now goes to the IP address 1.3.3.7, and the traffic would start going there. And that's worse yet. You can weaponize this a lot further. So say that you use SSL, right? As most websites do nowadays, or that's the trend, right? Using something like Let's Encrypt DNS validation, it should be possible to issue new certificates in another organization's name. And by that point, if I can issue an SSL certificate and also control the A pointers to hit my server, that's what stops me from completely strip away the SSL, unless you have something like certificate pinning in place. It's nothing really.
So provided you can create a website that looks like the one legitimate website, which, as we know, is not very difficult to do. You can pretend to be the banking infrastructure for that country.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But, I mean, there are so many potential venues for attack. I mean, if I don't reply to a question, eventually it will hit the right route. But say if I, in 1 in 100 incoming questions for some very specific target, I replied with an IP address to my server and spin up a phishing page, everything would work out. The domain name is identical, might even have a legitimate SSL certificate that's trusted in your browser. Then it starts getting really scary.
Yeah, because it's more the scale, right? And I think of years ago, this particular attack happened in Mexico, and they would find routers that were vulnerable, and they would change the DNS servers inside the routers. Those were largely legitimate DNS servers, except if you went to the banking websites that were popular in Mexico that would go to a spoof, the fake page, and they were scraping people's, financial information and accounts. But that's still on a scale pretty small, right? Because we're talking about you have to have one of those vulnerable routers, and it is a very individual kind of thing. In your attack scenario, I spend $12, right, and then I can start spinning up infrastructure to take over basically 50% of the requests for an entire country.
Yeah, and I mean, Congo is not a small country. It's roughly 90 million people there. I don't even know how many thousands of domain names that exist. Not to mention all the DNS traffic I got during that brief moment. I think it hit a peak with like 1,500 incoming DNS questions per second that I could easily reply to anyone with whatever.
And so, I mean, to fix this problem, is this really just kind of an education thing for folks, which I feel like we need to do, because I don't know, I'm reminded of this other article, I think it was somewhere in South Africa, that one of the pages from one of the government departments used Flash, and rather than converting that form into a very basic, HTML5 form, they created their own web browser that had a version of Flash in it. And so to access that site, you have to get this browser now with the Flash player in it. But that browser is limited only to go to like that one website. I feel like there's a lot of education we need to do, especially to governments across the world, about the proper ways to address some of these issues.
Yeah, I can only agree. I mean, in this case, DNSSEC would have mitigated a lot of the potential bad stuff I could have pulled off. It would have put me kind of in a more transparent position where I could see the incoming questions but not really modify them. But DNSSEC is not widely deployed anywhere. So for me, as a security researcher, I should know DNSSEC, I feel. I still don't, but at least it would verify the integrity of the domain name. I can't make domain names out of thin air, which I could now in this case. So yeah, I can only agree. Like, to solve things like this kind of attack, it has to be on a national level, international level. Like, countries must help each other out.
Yeah, I agree. I also put this in the category of some of the email security SMTP, technologies like DKIM and SPF, which really only work if everyone's doing it. DNSSEC is, in that same category, and I think there needs to be some evangelism at a global scale, which is not a small undertaking, to raise awareness, about some of these issues.
Lots of people have tried to do that evangelism, and lots of people have failed or gotten minor contribution, right? So it's a bigger problem that would have to be probably solved at a government dictation level where they mandate something, or it'll never get there.
Right.
But I mean, let's be real. $12, that's got to be a nation state level attack to be able to afford a $12 attack. I mean, that's super expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about arbitrage. You don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money to pull off some really crazy attacks. It's just, persistence is key. Now I was lucky.
Follow-on question for you with that: if your script was running and you popped the one TLD, do you still have a script running looking for other TLDs that may be vulnerable?
Yeah, I mean, after this proved to be successful, I kind of modified the script to run as a cron job over and over to look for more anomalies going forward. Because apparently this is a thing and it works. So I figured, why not?
Hey, at least we have you as the police then.
That's right.
Yeah, as long as my servers are up and running.
Yeah.
So Paul and I have been talking a lot about attack surface monitoring and management. And, I think generally you think about monitoring and managing things that you own, but upstream attacks like this, maybe the higher level providers, internet providers, a lot of the BGP kerfuffles that we see all the time, this stuff that we're talking about today. Yeah, I'm curious if you've seen any tools that monitor this kind of thing, like you're doing with your scripts, or if you think that it seems to me like that should be something that somebody is monitoring. That should be threat intelligence that's pretty easy to gather and keep track of.
I can't say I know of any tools that does it on a global scale, but shameless plug. My company, Detectify, we do asset monitoring of internet exposed things that you own as an organization. One of those being primarily domain names. And this is one of the attacks that we look on, but on an apex level, but not on an internet-wide level. One thing led to another. That's why I started looking on a bigger scale.
Yeah,
you might have just created a new product,
right? Yeah, it's interesting to
yeah, maybe,
right, to think about the scope. As you said, Fredrik, your company Detectify will monitor not just your websites for vulnerabilities, but also some of the things that are around your domains. To Adrian, to your point, looking at the internet as a whole and how you might be impacted by someone else misconfiguring something is very interesting. And I'm curious if there is coverage for that across, who provides coverage for that, or if it's something we have to police ourselves. Certainly, I can tell you one thing for certain, with almost 100% certainty, is that attackers are looking at it. Right? We don't want to leave it to them. Well, Fredrik, thank you so much for appearing on Enterprise Security Weekly today. Thank you for your research and your contributions to the community.
Thank you for having me.
With that, we'll take a short break. Come back with Alan Alford coming up next. Stay tuned.